Hello. So I'm gonna go over the quadrant model a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. This is Lucky.
Lucky dog.
My name's Ryan.
I'm Noah.
Alright.
Mutual friend.
So this is the theory of everything. It explains everything in existence.
I'm gonna be like a critical. What's it called? Somebody who's gonna be in dialogue with Ryan for the sake of the audience. So if there's anything I don't understand, I'll ask Ryan to kind of elaborate a little bit for the sake of my understanding and hopefully for the understanding of anybody that's listening. And hopefully we can make some headway into what this is all about. All right.
Okay. So I would say it was about 5 years ago. It was my sophomore year in college, the beginning of my sophomore year. I came up with this theory. So what happened was I was talking to my grandpa on the phone. I was in college, sophomore year. I was playing basketball. Shortly after I quit, that's when I came up with this theory. Okay, so I was talking to my grandpa, and he told me that according to a kind of popular model of personality psychology, a respected model, there is...
It's the MBTI, right?
He was using a different...
Okay, so...
type of thing. All right. But there's 4 types of people. He said that there was thinkers, emoters, doers, and dreamers. Alright, so check this out.
Lucky dog.
Thinkers is the first square. Emoters is the second square. Doers is the third square. And dreamers is the fourth square. Alright.
Lucky likes you, right?
I know.
What I say. Hey, Lucky.
And
Lucky.
so I was talking to him, and I told him that, well, I asked him, what do you think I am? And my grandpa told me that he thought I was a dreamer.
Sit.
But I didn't like this model because I didn't understand, what does a dreamer mean? What does it mean to be a dreamer? I can understand what it means to be a thinker, kind of, more intellectual. I can understand what it means to be an emotional person and a motor. A doer, I play basketball, I do things, I play sports, I do certain things, so I'm a doer, right? That's what I was thinking. I have a lot of emotions, I think a lot, but, my grandpa said that he thought that I was a dreamer. But I still thought about it, and I thought, it doesn't really make sense. I don't understand what it means to be a dreamer. It doesn't seem to fit with the other 3. I thought that there should only be 3 types of people because I didn't understand what...
Is a dreamer a thinker?
Well...
It sort of doesn't...
It doesn't seem to belong.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to fit in. So... Don't bite.
Hey,
don't bite.
Hey, Lucky boy, what are you doing? Come here.
Alright. So... So I thought about it. And I thought, okay, this is probably about a week after my grandpa told me about the model. I was thinking about it. And I thought, okay, thinking and emotion. These are often seen as separate, complete opposites.
But if I may interject, it's sort of like they're the same, right? Because, well, maybe, I don't know about the same, but they're related, right? So thinking is like what you do to rationalize your emotions, right? So like when you emote, you feel something, and then
Stop.
and so the thinking is how you explain what it is that you're feeling, in a sense, no?
Yeah, well, that's what my revelation was.
Oh, okay.
I thought it's kind of interesting because I had this revelation. I'm not going to get into this, but I was reading the Bible.
Right.
I was reading the New Testament. I never really read it before, but I was reading the New Testament. I was on the part, and this is a weird part. I was on the part where Jesus was crucified. On that chapter when I came up with this realization.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. And why is that weird?
Well, you're going to see why it's weird is because I'm going to describe that this you're not going to believe that, but that really was when I had this realization.
All right.
Because the quadrant we're going to discuss later is the cross. And this is what we're going to ultimately discover is the form of existence. Out of this form emerges a pattern which all existence derives from. This pattern is what I'm expressing, or what I'm trying to
when you speak
explain
of
right
the
now.
quadrant model of reality, you're saying a model of reality that springs from the form of a cross. Is that what you're saying?
It springs from a pattern,
Pattern.
which you can see emerge from this form.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So my realization was thoughts and emotions. People always say these are opposites.
Hey.
This is a duality. It's fine. He could lick me.
No, but you don't understand. Here, come here, baby. Come here.
So people think that these are opposites, but I thought about it and I thought, well, our thoughts affect our emotions. Our emotions affect our thoughts. They're very related. They're very interconnected, intertwined. So circle these two, and I realize this is a duality. They're different. They're separate from each other, but they also inform each other. Okay. Then I thought doing. Keep in mind, this is as I was reading this chapter. I'm on the New Testament chapter, the Gospels, right when Jesus is about to get crucified. This is when I'm having this realization. So I'm like, okay, thoughts, emotions, and I'm writing this. I had this written in my Bible right when I had this realization.
Oh, okay. You have this.
This written.
In your Bible.
I drew this in my Bible.
Okay. All right.
And I thought, okay, emotions, doing. I thought our emotions, doing is separate too, but our emotions affect what we do. So our emotions, actually the word emotions, you see the word mote in it. That's motor. I guess the root of that word means like motion. So what emotions does is it causes you to do things. Your emotions.
It impels you into action, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, I imagine.
Yeah, it brings you
reactions
to do things. Yeah. It impels you to action. So emotions affect what we do.
True.
And also what we do affects our emotions.
That's right.
What we do affects our thoughts. So I thought these are all interconnected. They're separate, thoughts, emotion, doing, but they're all interconnected. Okay. They're different aspects of the same thing.
All right, but we're not very clear on how that relates to the other three, right?
So then, and just so you guys know, I haven't really gone over this with Noah before, so I mean, he's seen my videos before, but he thinks that, and I agree that it would be good if we have kind of a dialogue as we do this. So, doggy, your collar's stuck on my.
Yeah,
Hold on a second.
he's getting rambunctious tonight, but that's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah,
All right, so
off the cuff. Yeah.
I thought dreaming again. This doesn't seem to fit, but then it's weird. Earlier that week, I was in a psychology class. And in the psychology class, we talked about dreaming. And I remembered, and this is good. I never went to my classes at this point in my life. Because I was doing the basketball before, and I was kind of busy with that. But I skipped a lot of classes. But I happened to go that day. And in the class that day, I learned. I mean, I wouldn't say I skipped a lot of I went to a lot of classes, but I also did skip a lot of classes. Okay. But the reason why I skipped is not because I skipped because I was just like hanging out doing whatever I wanted. I skipped because I preferred to read the book than to listen to the teacher a lot.
Right, different learning styles.
Different learning style.
That's right.
But now I actually like listening to teachers. So, but I ended up going to the class that day, and we learned about and actually I wasn't getting extremely good grades when I wouldn't go to classes, so I decided to go to class. So then we learned about dreaming. I remember that the teacher said that when you dream, you have thoughts. There's a different quality to the thoughts, though. For instance, you're going to not question things as much in a dream. If you see a monster in real life, or like a Godzilla walking around, you're going to be like, whoa, is this real? But in a dream, you don't really question it. But so you have thoughts. You have emotions.
Yeah, there's different logic to a dream, right?
Different logic, yeah. You do things. But this was the big insight that the teacher had. This is what triggered this for me. She said, but during your dream, you're paralyzed. Your spine is paralyzed. And that's so you don't act out your dream. So you're doing things, but so you're not like moving around in your bed or running around your room while you're sleeping. Although that does sometimes happen in the third stage of sleep. But that's another story. So you're not doing all of that. That's called sleepwalking. But so you're not running around doing crazy things. You're paralyzed.
Yeah, right. Like your objective body, so to speak, right, is paralyzed, but your dream body isn't. Your dream body does whatever it does.
Yeah, well, you have a dream body. It's not a real body. It's fake. It's an illusion.
But to what extent is our real body real?
That's a good question. I'm starting to really question that, honestly. Okay. So,
Keep going.
Okay, so when you dream, you're disconnected from your body, so you're not acting this stuff out. So I thought, okay, so dreaming is separate from the first three. Dreaming is separate from thinking, emotion, and doing, but it also encompasses them. It engulfs them. So I drew a circle around dreaming and I drew a circle around it all. So at first we had the duality, thinking and emotion. Then we had the triad, thinking, emotion, and doing. Now I realize, wait, we have a quadrant, thinking, emotion, doing, and dreaming. Now I had this realization, and I remember right after I had that realization, I connected it to the cross. And I thought, whoa, okay, I'd already been studying other subjects, and I started to make connections. I started to think, whoa, this pattern fits the brain. It fits
Can you go into
parts.
that a little
I'm going to go into that a little bit later, but it fits all the parts of the body. It fits the forces in the universe. And I remembered it hit me, and I thought, I just discovered the theory of everything. And I was like, I thought, whoa, this is incredible. Okay.
Yeah, whoa, just like Neo in the Matrix.
Yeah.
You had a Neo moment.
And then after that, I went through some hard times. But okay. But anyway, so then the next day, I remember I was outside of my room. I was going on my bike, and I was going to go to biology class. I hadn't gone to biology class the whole quarter, and I was about to have a test, a midterm. I had been reading the book, but I had been focusing so much on this stuff. Like I was focusing on other things. I was studying my own stuff. So, but the next day, I'm on my bike. I'm about to go to, and I remember I thought to myself, I just came up with a theory of everything, and I remember I was writing stuff all the time before, and I would often come to the idea like, whoa, I just came up with something incredible. I don't think I'm ever going to come up with anything as incredible as that. But I remember after I came up with this, I had kind of like the opposite thought. I was thinking, I just came up with something incredible. Now I really want to understand this more. I remember I went to biology class and we learned about Punnett squares. And that was the quadrant. You know, the Punnett squares are the quadrant.
Well, explain the Punnett square.
Well, we're gonna get to all that in a minute. But let me first. So I went to my biology class. In my biology class, I was actually that we learned a little bit about Punnett squares, and then it happened to be the only day I went to biology class. The teacher was like, "Okay, we're gonna watch a movie." So we watched the movie about DNA with Crick and Watson, and those are the guys who discovered the DNA molecule. And I remember I was sitting in the class and I was writing this quadrant stuff, and I had the thinking emotion, and I was making a bunch of other quadrants, and I was thinking of all the other things that apply to it. I'm pretty sure this is what I was doing. Maybe that was later that I was doing this, but all I know is I drew this. And I was watching the movie and I was thinking, whoa, I'm coming up with all these different connections of how this fits everything. Then I went to the bathroom and I started writing because when I came up with these realizations, I started to write a book. And I called the book based on a true story, and I was actually writing about conversations that I was having with real people. I would have conversations with real people, I would write them down afterwards. Okay, so that's what was going on. So then I had this realization, and I started writing about this. So then I went to the bathroom and I just started writing about this realization. And as I was writing, I came up with a new I guess I sort of came up with a new quadrant. I went back into the room. I was in the bathroom. I was writing about this stuff. Then I went back into the room. I was in the bathroom. I was writing about this stuff. Then I went back into the room. And I drew another quadrant, and it kind of hit me. And it's interesting because this quadrant hit me right when, during the movie, right when the Francis, who's it, Crick or Watson, who had the realization of the DNA molecule.
Is it Crick?
I guess it's Crick. We could be wrong. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but look it up.
Well, you have a computer, so look it up.
Oh, okay.
You can use your computer right now.
Yeah, I could, but I'm a little...
Well, actually, it would be good if you can use your computer, so once we get to the...
It will be good, but, you know...
Alright, so anyways, Crick had this realization about the DNA molecule. About that time, then it hit me, the next quadrant. I wrote in the first square, contemplation. In the second square, I wrote passion. In the third square, I wrote flowing. Also known as the zone.
Yeah, but somebody wrote a book on it, right?
There's been books written about the flow. It's actually a very important concept in psychology. I took a class in sports psychology. There's a whole thing about the flow. A whole couple days we learned about the flow. This concept. Michael Jordan wrote a book about the zone and the flow. You know, he talks about that. We'll get into that. And then in the fourth square, I don't know how I knew it, but I just wrote knowing.
You don't know how you knew it.
I just kind of knew it. I knew that the fourth square is knowing.
All right.
So,
Hey.
I wrote thinking. So we have thinking, emotion, doing, dreaming. Contemplation, passion, flowing, knowing. All right.
Lucky, come here.
So,
how did you arrive at those concepts?
well, now before we continue with that, I'm going to give you just some examples about how this pattern fits in some basic things.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay.
Then...
So tell us about the pattern. Yeah, what is
I'm gonna give you some basic examples. Then we're gonna go into the definitions of these different words, of all these words.
So yeah, explain to us how the pattern applies to different concepts that you came across in terms of the structure of the brain, biology, psychology, and so on and so forth.
Okay, should we put it on pause and then continue just in case things start to, or should we just continue going?
Just go through.
Just
yeah,
keep
just
going.
Go through. Yeah, why not?
Just
hey, look,
just keep going. Okay.
Dog, come here. You acting crazy, baby.
Hey, doggy. All right. So.
Rocky. Sorry, he's a little rambunctious all of a sudden.
I wonder.
This isn't his normal self.
I wonder if it's because I'm talking.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because you're talking to the corner.
He's like, room. What the heck is up with this guy?
Yeah, maybe. Come here, Lux. Come here.
All right. So just some examples of how this fits into the. He thinks I'm talking to him, probably. Just some examples of how this fits in real life.
Yeah, there you go.
So real life examples. Example number 1. The forces of nature. I'm not an expert in physics, but I've studied it a little bit. And basically there's 4 forces in nature, in physics. So they have the strong nuclear force. And then they have the weak nuclear force.
Lucky dog, what are you doing? Hey, he's doing his thing.
It's fine. It's fine. I actually like it when he listens to me. Then you have electromagnetism. Then you have gravity. You know, I'm thinking that people could look up my shorts. I'm not. It's all good.
Yeah.
I'll just. Yeah. Okay.
This
So.
is how you want to be remembered, Lucky. We might as well call you Licky.
All right. Now, so we got strong force, weak force, electromagnetism, and gravity. So I thought, okay, and I had this realization right after I came up with the thinking, emotion, doing, dreaming, because I had also that week I was watching this DVD that my grandpa, who lived here actually. He lived here, but he passed away a few years ago. But he gave me a DVD on physics, and this is one of the things that we learned. So, there's a strong force and the weak force. That's the duality. This is the different grandpa than the grandpa that told me this. This is the grandpa that lived here. My other grandpa lived in Quad. But okay, so there's a strong force and a weak force. That's the duality, thinking and emotion. So I connect the strong force to thinking, the emotion to the weak force. Now, I'm not an expert in this stuff, but from the DVDs that I've watched and stuff like that, I guess the strong force, it's in charge of, they have, the atoms, and there's protons and neutrons and electrons. Apparently, the strong force holds together things like protons and neutrons and these small constituents within the atom. And apparently it's an extremely strong force. Hence the name. I guess it's extremely strong. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I connected that force to thinking. It's kind of a weird force. It's strange, kind of like thinking is strange. So I'm putting this as the first square. Remember, thinking was the first square. Strong force we're putting in the first square. Draw the quadrant. The first square is strong force. Second square, I put weak force. So weak force apparently is a force that can be seen in nuclear decay. And I'm not really sure about the specifics of weak force, but I'm guessing it kind of holds things together as well. Okay? But apparently it's different from the strong force. Now what we're going to get at is, physicists think that at one point all these forces were one force. and then they kind of, after the Big Bang or whatever, they become separated. But apparently all these were one force. So the idea is these are separate, but they're also kind of the same. They're different versions of the same thing. And even the equations to these different forces are very similar. Ultimately, they're all the same thing, is what we're going to get at, because they once were all the same thing. But they're also different. So, okay, so this is the point. The strong force and the weak force is the duality. Then we have the third one, electromagnetism. So I think of this as the doing. Electromagnetism is like the doer. Now, electromagnetism, apparently, it holds together matter. Like I said, I'm not a physicist. I was a psychology major. But I learned this stuff as well. So, it holds together matter, and, you know, there's electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves are... And just because I'm a psychology major, physicists aren't smarter than psychology majors necessarily. I just want to point that out. They really aren't.
Really, you don't have to be accredited to be smart. I think we can all agree.
Physicists aren't that special. Okay, so, but anyways, they like to think they're really special. Whenever I see like a physicist on the internet, he's always acting like he's the ish.
Right. Yeah, I think some of that comes from the fact that they think like physics is the one hard science that is, you know, you can find out the truth from studying physics, and it's, you know, it's basically there's some philosophical assumptions couched in that belief, but we're not going to go get into that right now, I think. So
the theory of everything was not come up with the physicist; it was come up with by a psychology major. Okay, so then you got electromagnetism, and I guess there's electromagnetic waves too. So electromagnetic waves, that includes light waves, microwaves, every type of those waves. Gamma rays, infrared. All of these are electromagnetic waves, and they all go at the speed of light.
Yeah, it's light, essentially, right?
And then Maxwell, apparently, there's this guy named Maxwell, and he combined all of electromagnetism, all these things of electromagnetism, into 4 equations. So maybe we can get to that later. So we have strong force, weak force. Electromagnetism, like I said, is a doer. It holds together matter. So the reason why this paper is like solid, I guess, is because of electromagnetism. So I think of this as solid. I think of that as the doer, the third square. We're going to get to the first square is always kind of weird. The second square is more normal, and I think of it as homeostasis. The second square always holds things together, maintains order. The third square is always the doer. It's the most physical. It's also seen as kind of bad often, and we'll get to that. And then the fourth square is always different. It doesn't seem to belong. So remember I talked about dreaming. It didn't seem to fit with the other ones. So then there's gravity. And gravity is kind of like the dreamer. It's the fourth one. Now, physicists apparently could combine the strong force and weak force and electromagnetism into one force. And they do this with quantum mechanics. They say these are all aspects of the same thing. They're all connected. So, and they connect them all through what's called quantum mechanics. So once again, you have the duality and the third one, the triad. These are all very connected. But physicists always had a hard time with gravity because gravity didn't seem to belong with the other 3. Gravity was the fourth one. It's different. It's strange. So there's attempts to connect gravity with these other 3. So one attempt is string theory, M theory, stuff like this to connect all these into one thing. But even these theories, they're
just theories.
Well, they're true. They're true, but they say that they're not just theories. They're true, but what is just a theory? You know, electricity is just a theory, but electricity is true. But
well, it's not. I think electricity is a name for a concept, and there's different theories of how electricity works. You know, so it's like saying, you know, energy is just a theory. Well, you have to define what energy is, and then you have to, you know, how electricity works. You know, so it's like saying, you know, energy is just a theory. Well, you have to define what energy is, and then you have to, you know, there's various theories on how it acts and interacts and with itself and other stuff. And so these are theories of forces for explaining behavior of objects.
yeah, well, gravity is just a theory.
Right.
Everything is just a theory.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Even the most well-established thing is just a theory. So basically, then you have gravity, and so they try to connect it with these other ones, but everyone understands that gravity is strange and it's different than these other forces. But it has been kind of, people think that they can't connect all four of them into one, and they're pretty sure that they have. And basically, though, my point is that these are all different, but they're all interconnected. And they're all, so gravity is especially separate from the other three, but it also encompasses them. So, and one reason why I say that is, think about what Einstein talked about. He talks about how gravity is the product of the bending of space-time. You know, with M theory, they say that there's gravity waves and things like this, and there's in strings and stuff. I just study this stuff on the surface. I'm not an expert. But basically, Einstein talks about how gravity is the product of the bending of space-time. And the way that space-time is bent is, if there is matter, it bends space-time. And really big matter, like the Earth, is going to bend space-time a lot. And there's going to be a lot of gravitational pull. But where does the matter come from? Electromagnetism, the strong force, the weak force. So without these, there is no gravity. So once again, these are all extremely connected. Without one, there is not, the others don't exist. They don't exist without each other. And they exist, the fact of the matter is they exist within this pattern, within this form. Now, people always ask, you know, why is it that things have to be this way? You know, is this just a random thing at the beginning of the universe? You know, just randomly it happened to be this way, but it could have been any other way. You know, everything is just random. It could have been any way, but what I'm going to get at is it couldn't have been any way. Nothing can be any way. And this is what's going to drive a lot of people crazy. Because a lot of people like to have the impression that things can be any way and things are just random and there is no truth. But that's not the case. The reason why the forces are this way, and this is what I'm going to get at, is because it fulfills this pattern, and existence exists to reveal this pattern, this form, what is the cross. Now, remember I discussed how I had this realization seriously when I was reading the Gospels when Jesus is crucified, and I immediately connected it to the cross. And I think that that's why the cross is such a powerful symbol. In different cultures throughout the world, it wasn't, you know, Jesus is in Israel. He's in Jerusalem. And he's in the Eastern Roman Empire. So, you know, the Jews at this point are in the Eastern Roman Empire. And he's crucified. And a lot of people think, you know, that this cross symbol, it's just a random thing. He was just, you know, put on a cross. It was just the way that they crucify people. But the thing is, this cross symbol is a very popular symbol in cultures throughout the world. Hey, Noah, can you call Lucky? Because he's pushing me off the bed.
Oh yeah. Here, let's make some room. Because you actually calmed down quite a bit.
Actually, yeah, it's fine. I'll just sit like this. But so for instance, the Hindus, they have that kind of swastika looking symbol with the four squares and the little dots within each square. It's kind of interesting. Hitler, he had the swastika symbol, but this cross symbol,
And then also like the north, south, east, and west, kind of. There's Native American iconography as well, and then I don't know. I'm sure there's others that you can think of.
Yeah, I just notice all these different cultures all have this cross symbol as a very important symbol, and I'm not the only one who's noticed that. There's this guy named Jung who noticed this same. Carl Jung.
Swiss psychologist.
Noticed that the cross.
Inventor and of analytic psychology, and so on and so forth.
Is he the inventor of that?
Yeah, he went off of Freud did his whole Freudian psychoanalysis is what you call it, and then Jung was like analytic psychology and took it in a slightly different direction.
Okay.
But that's not what we're talking about. I don't think.
Well, it's interesting because Jung was actually the guy who came up with he started up this personality model, kind of.
The MBTI is based on his conceptions regarding like introversion and extroversion and some other stuff, I think, as well. But Myers-Briggs ran with it. There's two different people, and then anyway, the MBTI sort of dovetails with what you're talking about, and I'm sure you'll get into it at some point, right?
Yeah. I might get into that soon, so hopefully so. Alright, so then I continued to think about this, and I thought, okay, let's just think of another example. And I started thinking of the body. And I thought, okay, the heart has 4 chambers. And the way that we drew it in the biology classes, the teacher would draw it like a cross. So I thought, okay, do you know what the different chambers are called in the heart? The left ventricle, the left atrium, the right ventricle, and the right atrium. So I was saying, okay, the four chambers, that's kind of like the cross. And then I thought, okay, then there's the stomach. Can you get your computer out, Noah?
Yeah. What do you want me to look up?
I might use my computer too.
Okay.
Might as well. We have a lot of time. So
that's like one of the only things we have a lot of right now.
So then I thought, I'll just give a few other examples of how this fits in. Then I thought about like the tastes, the different tastes that people have. I thought, okay, there's sweet.
Oh, tastes. Oh, I thought you said cases. Like,
excuse me, dog.
Ancient India. Or is it not so ancient India, right? I don't know.
Oh, castes. Well, yeah, the caste system too, but we'll get to that. But this is why it's going to be important that, you see, when I first did this, I didn't have a computer with me. So it was very hard to go over all these cases because I can't remember everything.
Why not?
I could, maybe. I don't know.
We're working on it.
But, so for instance, the tastes. I thought the different types of tastes that people have. There's bitter. There's sweet. There is sour. And there's salty. Okay? Now, bitter and sweet, that would be the duality. People say, it's bittersweet anyways. They're different tastes, but they're kind of similar in respects. Then there's sour, and that would be the third one, the kind of the bad one.
I thought bitter was bad.
Yeah, but also the first one kind of has a sad quality to it, so.
Oh, bitter? Oh.
The first square. We're going to get into the qualities of all squares.
Okay.
But sweet is the second one. And actually, I might even change the order of these. I have to study the tastes more. But then the fourth one is salty. Salty kind of seems different from the other ones. And then we're going to get into this too. So I talked about these four forces, but then people, this is an interesting thing. People say there's a possible fifth force. Now people are going to go, oh yeah, now Ryan.
Now you're wrong.
Now
there's 5.
Now you're wrong. There's 5.
See?
It's not 4.
Yeah, dummy.
It has nothing to do with the number of things. It has to do with the pattern out of which they emerge. And that's actually a part of the pattern. So there's a possible fifth force. They call it the quintessent force. Quint, I think, means 5. But this is what people know as dark matter. Now, quintessent. But some people say that there actually is no fifth force. So you think the fourth is strange. Well, the fifth is always super strange.
And it's not even, so the way you explain it to me, it's not even certain that it exists or that it's real.
Often the fifth is like God. The fifth is so transcendent, it's like God. Now, see, the thing about quintessent force is people wonder, is this really a separate force, or is this just an outcome of gravity? Is this just gravity that we don't understand? Maybe we just don't understand gravity completely, and then we're getting this misunderstanding mixed up with this fifth force, the quintessent dark matter force. So the fifth is always very transcendent. The fourth is transcendent, but the fifth is extremely transcendent. Now, same thing with the taste, though. So people always knew about bitter, sweet, sour, and salty, but just I guess it's probably like 8 years ago, at the most. Somebody said, you know what? There's actually a fifth taste. It's umami. They call it umami.
It's like savory.
Yeah, savory. That's another word for it. And I guess it's a taste that you get out of meats. But the point is, this force, this other taste, it seems it's extremely transcendent. People didn't even know about it, really. But it's monosodium glutamate. And the key word in that is sodium. That's Na.
Right, so it's kind of like salty, actually. Right?
It's kind of... but the point is, this force, this other taste, it seems it's extremely transcendent. People didn't even know about it, really. But it's monosodium glutamate. And the key word in that is sodium. That's Na.
Right, so it's kind of like salty, actually. Right?
It's kind of like salty. Because salt is NaCl, sodium chloride. So remember, the fourth, where we're going to get at, is the fourth and the fifth are always very connected. Extremely connected. So gravity and the quintessent force. Remember, people think that the quintessent force is just an aspect of gravity. Well, salty and umami, these are so similar. Umami is different. It's a fifth one, but it's so connected to salt. Now, we're going to show how this relates to this model in that thinking, emotion, doing, dreaming. Dreaming is the fourth one. We're going to discuss in a little bit, hopefully, once we discuss the different definitions of these words, how dreaming is separate from these other three, yet it encompasses them, and it also points to what comes after it. Dreaming it indicates what comes after it, which is contemplation.
Oh, I see. So you're doing like a spiral kind of thing, right? Where there's so in other words, there's the quadrant where it's like a circle, right? Like one goes to the next, but then there's like a dimensional shift where it goes up into the next quadrant in a way. Is that what you're saying?
There's a dimensional shift. It encompasses everything before it. It's a part of all that, and then it points to. It reveals what's going to come after it, the qualities of it. So dreaming is going to point to contemplation.
Which is the next
which is the next quadrant, which is going to lead to a whole new quadrant.
Right. And you're saying there's 4 quadrants in total.
There's 4 square, and there's going to be 4 quadrants in total. And this is the form of existence. The 16 squares is the form of existence altogether.
Okay. And the reason why you limit it to 16 is why?
Because that's all existence gets to. There's been studies that show that the human mind is only capable of imagining 16 squares at one time. I don't think that's a coincidence, because I think that there's a connection between the human mind and existence itself. Another thing that's been discovered is the human mind. If you have like a square, a video game square, and you have 3 dots, you know those dots that move around randomly. They just go doo doo doo, and they're going around on the square. You know what I'm talking about, right?
What is this?
This is a video game screen, and then you have little dots within the video game screen, and the dots move around and they hit the square, right? Like Pac-Man. There's a circle in it, a white circle, and it's going boop boop boop. You know what I'm talking about, right?
It's a specific video game? I'm not sure I know.
Obviously, it's not a specific video game.
I'm sorry.
But just imagine that there's a square, and there's a dot in it, and the dot's moving, and it's hitting the different sides of the squares. It's just going beep, 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 beep. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I think I saw it. So, like, the square is the screen.
The square is a screen.
Right, and there's a dot, and it's like, what do you call it? Like the game where you're hitting the bricks. You know what I'm talking about? Or like Pong or something like that. Pong, that's a good one.
Like Pong.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about now.
Okay, so yeah, it's like Pong, and the dots are it's going around. Okay, if you can keep track of one dot really easily, you get to 2 dots. They're going beep, 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 and you can keep track of these 2 dots.
Yeah.
You say keep track of these 2 dots.
Sort of okay.
Which dot is 1 and which one is 2, and you can keep track. Yeah. You get 3 dots. You can still keep track. It's a little more difficult, but this is dot 1, dot 2, dot 3. You can keep track. Okay, that's dot 3, and then once they stop, you say, okay, which one is 1, 2, and 3? The people can say, oh, that's 1, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. Once you get the 4 dots, the people have a pretty difficult time.
Right. Yeah, I don't even know what 3 dots. How people do that.
3 dots is difficult, but people do it pretty well. It's difficult. The 3rd is always kind of difficult, but 4th, people have a very difficult time, but they can do it. They'll be like, okay, that's dot 1, dot 2. After they've moved around a lot, they'll say, oh, that's dot 1, that's dot 2, that's dot 3, that's dot 4.
Yeah, it's still possible to do. Okay.
It's still possible.
All right.
But once you get to 5 dots, people can't do it. There's never been anybody who can really do it. Who can
consistent.
Not even like not at all. I mean, people can get lucky.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But they can't really do it.
Okay.
And I think that it has to do with the mind. So they also have these abacus boards. And this is where people do really advanced mathematics in their head, but they do it with these boards. They're called abacus boards, and they have 4.
Oh, I'm out of the screen. No wonder.
We'll stop at maybe like an hour, and then we'll continue.
Wait. Calm down, baby. Calm down.
But basically,
here, we're gonna move this just a little bit. There. Oh no.
I'm not an expert on abacus boards, but there's these 4 dots, or these 4 little things, and with using these 4 things, people can do extremely advanced mathematics. But my point is, the human mind, it's also connected to this pattern. One other example of this is in business schools, apparently. If you have 3 people in your group, people say that's ideal. Like 1, 2 people is good, 3 people is good. Once you get the 4 people in one group, they say it's okay, but it starts to kind of go down a little bit. The what's the word? The economy of it, the effectiveness.
Yeah, the efficiency.
Efficiency. The efficiency goes down at 4 people. Efficacy.
Not to get too far off topic, but that sort of is in the Bible, isn't it? Like when 2 or 3 gather in my name, blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's one thing that.
It never says much. It says 2 or 3, but it never makes mention of 4 or more.
Before I get into this too much, I want to make something very clear.
Okay.
Jesus in the stories is depicted as an Orthodox Israelite, Orthodox Jew. And I just want to make it clear so that people don't get turned off when I talk about Jesus. He's not. Jesus is in the stories is a pretty good guy. All right. So, anyways, but
yeah, we'll talk about all that later.
Don't
worry about it.
Okay, but what was I saying? What were we talking about?
You're talking about people in business groups.
Oh, business groups. Once you get to 5 people, they say never works.
Yeah.
Once you get to 5 people, the efficiency just goes down 100%. It's horrible. All right, but we went on a little bit of a tangent. But so we talked about bitter, sweet, sour, salty, and then umami. That's connected to the 5th. All right, let's do just another example. So I thought, okay, the heart. Then I thought the stomach. So the stomach is divided into 4 parts. There's the cardia. So we'll think of that. That's the first square. The cardia is where the contents of the esophagus empty in the stomach. I'm using the computer now. Then it goes into the fundus. The fundus is formed by the upper curvature of the organ. So there's the fundus. That's the second square. Then there's the body, and it says this is the main central region. And then there's the 4th part. The pylorus is the lower section of the organ that facilitates emptying the contents into the small intestine. So I thought, okay, then there's the stomach. Then I thought the liver. I thought, okay, well then, cultures have always looked at the heart as very important. Like the Aztecs would kill people, cut out their hearts, and then they would put up the hearts to the gods or whatever. They would put people in 4 lines, interestingly. They would put them in 4 lines, send them up to be sacrificed, kill them, cut out their hearts, and the heart was seen as a very important symbol. Pagans are the Aztecs. All right. But okay, so then the liver. There's the 4 parts to the liver, and also similarly, the liver was seen as a very important organ. By many cultures. The 4 lobes. So let me just look it up to see what the 4 lobes are called.
I think Lucky fell asleep.
Yeah, Lucky's asleep now. For some reason, I'm having a hard time finding what the 4 lobes are called. Hold on a second.
What the 4? Which ones?
4 lobes of the liver. Of the liver.
The liver.
Of the liver.
Goodness. Don't ask me because I don't know. Well, this is a good time to take a break. Then we'll take a break and we'll reconvene for the next video. You want to do that, or you want to keep going? You think you?
Well, we'll just finish with the liver, and then we'll stop, and then we'll continue.
All right. Stick around if you want to know the answer, or you're probably a faster Googler than Ryan. Google it up.
I'm just reading about the liver.
Yeah, was it 4 something on the liver? 4 lobes?
Yeah, the 4 lobes.
All right. Let me see here. Quadrate lobe. Huh?
Yeah, there's the left, right, the quadate, and the quadrate lobe. I was just reading about other stuff about the liver. That's why I was taking so long.
Yeah, but nobody wants to watch you read about the liver.
All right, so there's the left, the right, the quadate. So once again, the left and the right. I look at that as the duality.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Then there's the quadate.
So this is the pattern then that everyone wants to know about.
This is
so
the
pattern.
pattern.
Is there's a
duality,
a polarity.
A polarity.
Right. There's a 1 and 2 opposite, like opponent kind of duality that you just discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a third that's like not really. That's it is related.
The doer.
But it's not part of that original polarity, right? It's just
it's the doer.
In addition to
The
it,
first part is the
complements it.
thinker. The second part is the emotional part. So the thinker is it's conservative, but it's a little bit wild. The second part, the second square, the first square, then the second square is the emotional part, and that's the part that maintains order and homeostasis. The third part is the doer part, the part where most of the action occurs. It's the most physical part.
Most physical.
The most physical. And I'm going to explain these all very well, hopefully, once we get into the personality types. And I'm going to explain the different qualities of each quadrant or each square a lot better. And then...
But I just want to be sure, your theory of everything isn't just personality. It applies equally to everything.
It applies equally to everything, but the reason why I like to describe it in terms of personality is because...
You're a psychology major.
I'm a psychology major, and also that's what people understand the best. So if you understand the squares in terms of types of people, like the first square has these qualities, and like a person with these qualities.
Can you say, sorry to interrupt, but could you say that it's like a cube? Because it's like, there's the squares, there's the first quadrant, and then it goes into the second quadrant, and then the third quadrant, and a fourth quadrant. So could it actually be like a cube?
I've come up with all these different types of ways of looking at it.
Right.
I remember when I first came up with the theory, I was thinking of spider webs, and I was thinking of, maybe if I was just coming up with all these different creative ways of ordering it, but really, essentially, it's just 4 quadrants. 1 quadrant, 2 quadrants, 3 quadrants, 4 quadrants.
And each quadrant is composed of another quadrant.
Well, there's 16 squares within the 4 quadrants.
Yeah.
And the big thing is we're gonna get to the really amazing consequence that all of the particles in the universe, that everything is made up of in this whole universe, fits this pattern of these there's 16 particles that everything is made up of.
And so the pattern is a way of organizing the relationship between these 4 aspects of, right? So once again, you got the polarity, the duality, which is the 1 and 2, and then the 3 is like the next one. It's like base. It's physical base. It's like the most physically prominent of all 4 in that quadrant. And the 4th one is a little bit transcendent.
Yeah. A
little bit out of, like, it doesn't seem to fit a little bit, and it points to what comes next, which is the
and it also encompasses everything before it.
All right, that's a good one. It encompasses
everything.
All 3 that came before it. Okay.
But it's very different from the other 3.
But the 3rd one seems very different from the first 2 as well. And it's like the first 2 have to come into existence together, right? Because they can't exist without each other.
Yeah, that's a duality, and they're often pretty similar. But you said that this is just a way of organizing things, and someone could say, oh, this is just a way to organize the universe. But it's not just a way to organize the universe. This is the way the universe is organized. This is a framework through which organization occurs. So we're going to notice that when we look at the soil, how the soil is structured, the ordering, it's not just random. The way the atmosphere is structured, the ordering, it's not just random. The way the planets are structured, the ordering, it's not just random. It's structured based on this pattern. So that's what we're going to get at.
All right, cool. You want to wrap it up there, or do you have anything else to say?
So let's wrap that up for right now, and then hopefully we're going to continue. The only reason why is because I want to put what I have right now online, and then we can hopefully continue.
Sounds good. Okay. All right, thanks for watching, everyone, and let us know if you have any questions, whatever. Hopefully we answer them. We get to them soon. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.